to see if I can run a plane through here, since I'm using colors that really don't dislike each other that much. Now I'm reducing it and building up a shape. Now, I'm going to use the oldest trick in the book, called a diagonal motion. Everybody uses this. It's called the excitement line. That's what it's called, because it leads you into the center of the battle. When you look at most paintings, the action usually comes from a diagonal from the right side, working its way into the center, and then the left side working behind to the center. So you get this movement, and then all the action is in here. That's a typical Renaissance composition. Now the good ones, and there was 8 or 9, Botticelli. But my aesthetic has moved further west as I get older and less determined and less feeling that what I'm doing is absolutely right. I now realize that there is no absolutely right. There is only more. So as you live, and the longer you live, you realize what you're living for is more. And you want to get more with less, which is a kind of oxymoron. But that's what we're doing. I'm not going to get into the politics because that's too great an example. So here I'm showing you when you paint thin enough, what you can do. When you're doing Alla Prima, you can make adjustments in your concept. And if you notice, this is being pushed underneath this layer of paint. So I'm pushing underneath to pull up. So that concept of controlling your volumes and controlling the position of your color against each other is absolutely the most important thing you can learn. The surface composition, for example, if you looked at this madness over here, you could see a kind of organization of orange, yellows, greens, pinks, reds as you move along. Well, that would be your typical painting, say in the 1800s, where you're organizing this on the surface. The great painters organized this against that. All of a sudden, there was no background. When Cézanne finally was understood, backgrounds disappeared and became part of the painting. The whole modern concept that separates great painting from mediocre is the relationship of the whole. That you're push-pulling your volumes to make a dance, to make a language that the eye picks up and can enjoy. Or vomit, whatever happens. That depends on your palate. You know? Okay, now we're going to see if my little craziness here will work a little bit. Just to pull this right through here and change this. I don't want to lose the white, because the white is sitting forward on the plane up here, and I like that. So the white is basically behind you here and in front here, because just by weight, if you change the weight of a volume, it comes forward. If you change the clarity of a color, it will come forward. The brightness will come forward. The coolness will retreat. Here we go. Now, I use these cheaters, and I actually got this idea from the 12th century fresco painters. Now, what they did is they would do drawings. They would put pinholes in the drawings. They would throw them up against the wall, take a duster and dust like this, and have a drawing. And they would take that from painting to painting to painting. We'll say, well, hell, I can use the same thing. I'll just make shapes. Then I watched a film on de Kooning where he cut out a shape, put it here, painted the hell out of the painting, then pulled the paper off and had a white space. So I said, well, that's good. That makes life a lot easier. So I said, what the hell, we'll try everything. So here we go. Now I cut I cut the chroma of this color, and you'll notice as soon as it goes up, I think. And I think this, I'm hoping, will unify the piece and make it look more like a painting and less like a scrambled egg. Right here, again. So I push the dominant of the painting from the orange to the yellow. This movement, I think, helps pull the painting together and gives it more of a sense rather than just a lot of color. So every time you make a motion and a movement, you're also changing the relationship that the eye is doing with the surface. Because everything in painting is built for a viewer that doesn't know you for Adam. So when they look at your painting, they can enter it. That means they're getting very intimate. I'm sorry. But every great artist is naked. Because you're putting everything on that surface, and somebody with an eye knows you better than you want them to. Especially if they know your bank account.
Or don't know.
Now, I'll clean this color up, and I think this may help. Okay, down here, I want to trim it. So here's what I'm going to do. Go back over here where things are really ugly. Use something strange. I'm going to make a strip that they call a visual strip. It makes a jump optically for the eye and separates the bright yellow from the grayed out mess at the bottom. Now, a lot of people like the bottom better than they like the top, because the bottom resonates something, where the top is an expansion and an explosion of an idea. So it takes you a little while to understand. I did in here, I echoed, in a very low key, I echoed these colors down here, so that the bottom is doing this. It's going under the top. Theoretically. I don't want to get too carried away. Let's do this. I'm reducing everything to a plane because the plane is easier to read and it has a certain excitement. Because every time I push this, I'm relating it to that. I want that to be slightly ahead of that movement, so that nothing is a division. If you make a straight all in one position, it just divides the thing in two parts. Every time you shift it, you create a movement. That movement makes a whole. That was the trick that Cezanne understood when he was looking out at the woods. When he was looking at the woods like this, and he was looking at these negative spaces. And the first thing he said was, if I paint them back there, they will have no relationship to the rest of the painting, so I'm pulling them up. The second thing he did is he looked at this and said, I don't have to paint everything. I paint what I need. The term, which was repeated over and over, and Rothko repeated it in his manuscript, I believe, and one that I use all the time because it's true, and I use it when people say, I don't understand abstraction. And I look at him and say, well, it's impossible for you to understand it. It's brand new. It was just done. You have no memory for it. You have to live with it. That means you got to get in your pocket and pull out some change. That really upsets them. Here we go. Whoops, I want to go in there. Now I'm going to go back to that gesture line that I played with off and on for the last hour. want to keep the, because I'm working Alla Prima, I know I got a lot of wet paint, so I gotta be careful. That's what this is for. People think it's for the edge, it's not for the edge. It's to help you control the white paint as you're working around different colors. And you don't paint into it. And if you get an edge and you don't like it, that's easy to get rid of. It's called a thumb. There you go. Now there's your shift. It's a simple device. Comes from that limb. But it helps control the relationship of this to that. Now the interesting thing is, people also have this thing about no depth. I remember when I was coming up, everything was flat. And I thought about that for a long time, and I said, no, that sounds stupid. That means you can't control your painting. It's not about the depth, it's about position. So I immediately got thrown out of the abstract world, because I said, no, if I want depth, I'll get depth. It's isolation. If I pull the eye deeper here, and I pull it up here, I will get movement across the plane. I can prove that. I'll wipe out that thing and do it again. Oh, why not? I'm gonna knock this down here. I don't want to lose the color. I just want to knock it down so that you can see how this starts to swell. The more I push that, it doesn't go this way, it goes that way. That's called echo and impulse. That's the difference between putting things on a surface and making them a part of the surface, which means you're becoming more intimate with your own work, which means you're going beyond illustrating an idea to painting it. That's what the term really means. Play this up just a little more here to keep a kind of a sensibility going.